Good afternoon, morning, evening, depending on, of course, where you are joining us from today. I see that we have about 1 minute to go, but I'm thinking let's get this show on the road. Let's get it started because we've got so much exciting stuff to be sharing with you today. And I've also got a lot of admin to get through. No, I'm joking. That's not too much. Hi, everyone. I'm Jade. I work in the marketing department at Omni. I'm so excited that I get to welcome you to our open source training launch for 2022. I'm filled with so much gratitude today for all of those who work behind the scenes to actually make this event happen. It takes a lot, but most importantly, I'm so grateful to you guys, our audience, who support us towards our mission to create a platform to share knowledge and to build a community. So before we kick off tonight with all the exciting content that we have in store for you, there are just a few housekeeping rules that I need to go through. So just bear with me for a few moments. Please, if you can ensure to mute your mic, all your microphones, and to keep all your devices turned off. If you would like to engage with the moderator in the chat today, please do so. We are going to be engaging with you there. Please take full advantage of that. Please also note that this session will be recorded, and all attendees can look forward to receiving a copy of the recording post the event, and we'll also be sharing the slide deck with you straight after the session. For those of you who'd like to engage our speakers straight after the session, we will be online for an extra 20 minutes, so please hang around for a few moments and engage with our speakers. They'd love to hear from you if you have any burning questions. We'll also be sharing links to all our upcoming sessions with you in the chat, so please look out for those. We want to make sure that you're securing your spot for our next session for next month. All right, I feel like I need a drum roll or something. But these are our speakers that you can see on screen at the moment. Tonight, I welcome our ETD and Resource Executive at Omni, Sharon Benting. Sharon, if you can give us a little wave. Fantastic. And her dynamic ETD team of facilitators, Mario Pepino and Roshni Cornelius. With their wealth of experience and knowledge, you are guaranteed to walk away tonight with some key nuggets of information to implement back into your teams and into your workplace. I hope you enjoy the session. And now I'm going to hand over to you, Mario. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jade. Roshni, we're going to play the video. All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Today, between Roshni, myself, and Sharon, we are going to be looking at people management moving forward into the future world of work. And our key takeaways for this afternoon is us exploring the evolution of people management and the realities of the future world of work. We're also going to look at the concept of Barney in this process and how Barney is a good starting point for how we manage people as we move into the future. We'll be taking a look at some of our leadership strategies, how we go about building trust, how we enable agility, encourage creativity, and influence with impact inside of our work environments. We're going to explore diversity and inclusivity, as that is one of the big things which has changed for us over the last little while. And we're going to spend some time looking at how we unlock potential inside of a multi-generational team. So as we move into people management, it's all around the fact that there's exponential change happening all around us. We're operating in a world which is very different from what it was 2 years ago. There's an extreme amount of uncertainty and lack of clarity as to what the next step is going to be. We're sitting with the war happening in Europe, which was not anticipated or expected as time has gone on. And there are a number of effects that we're now seeing coming through and filtering into economies all around the world, affecting people all around the world, and displacing a lot of thoughts in what is happening as well. So with an exponential change inside of our work environments, inside of our operations and organizations, we do require skills for disruptive forces. And if we look at the definition of people management, it sits in our ability as leaders to manage, to lead, engage, and influence our people. It looks at us being able to deal with the massive transformative purposes, which aligns not only our people to our organizations, but also goes into how we align our strategies into our organizations. We do this through using communication, through collaboration, through innovation and evolving. And some of the things that we need to consider is those critical skills that we actually need as individuals and that we need to develop continuously. So as a business, we've identified inside of our Workforce 2030 program specific skills sitting inside of cognitive flexibility, looking at creativity and collaborative management. We're looking at different things like judgment and decision making, understanding how negotiation skills have evolved as well, and linking into critical and computational thinking, problem solving, service orientation, and emotional intelligence as well. So on your screens at the moment, there's a lovely little poll that asks, what kind of critical skills do you need as a leader? And just looking at some of the results coming through, we can see that there's a very big need for critical thinking, because in our schooling systems right now, critical thinking is not one of the skills that is being taught. And it challenges us as individuals from a multi-generational team as well perspective. We, as an older, mature team, understand the need for critical skills. Newer individuals coming into the workplace are very different in terms of their understanding, in terms of what needs doing. And as older individuals in our workplace, the more mature staff, we have the responsibility and the ability to use our leadership strategies and actually develop our people in all of that as well. So as we go through from looking what is there, critical thinking coming out nice at the top, followed on by collaboration, moving downwards with innovation, negotiation skills, and creativity. And I think a big impact of all of this is that these skills are very different from what they were 10 years ago. And that links into our massive transformative purposes. So as organizations, we are looking at exponential organizations. And Salim Ishmael, who's an author, he penned the book Exponential Organizations, actually tagged massive transformative purpose as one of the key changes over the last 20 years. But as organizations, we've been working towards that. We've looked at massive transformative purpose linking into VUCA. And we all know that VUCA world, which comes from the Cold War era of being volatile, of being uncertain, of being very complex, and of being very ambiguous. And now we have this new concept that is, or not so new concept, that was introduced in 2009 by Jamaica Cascio, who's an American anthropologist. And his focus was around the fact that inside of this Barney world, and not the dinosaur either, where it links to us as humanity actually being quite, our future being very unpredictable, being very uncertain. And the scenario is changing continuously. Then with the advent of COVID over the last 2 years particularly, we've seen that uncertain world. We don't know where we are able to travel. We've got continually changing rules and regulations all the time. It requires of us to become adaptable. So with that massive transformative purpose, we are looking at things like us being able to have a purpose in what we do, and with the transformation as well, understanding that as organizations, we've been looking at digitization, we've looked at optimization, we've introduced the concept of fourth industrial revolution and artificial intelligence. We've seen these things happening in our spaces, and it's linked very strongly together by our people. But very often our people are not being managed to actually move forward as well. So our people need a purpose, and in line with massive transformative purpose, and Berman, who deals with a study in digital transformation in 2016, actually penned that MTP is a highly aspirational tagline for individuals first and foremost, then groups, then moving into companies, and then moving into our social movements and social communities as well. And importantly for all of this is that the people that we have in our organizations need a purpose, because with that purpose, they become motivated. They become driven to succeed in what they do. They have a sense of success for themselves, success for their teams around them, and ultimately that feeds into the success of the organization as well. And those people in our organizations, if they are working with meaning, if they are working with purpose, they're going to cause that transformation for us. And with that, we're going to see that moving from the work into them being willing to give back. And also, we retrospectively see people grow. I think we've had a big change in the last little while of how we interact with people. So linking into this Barney wall, that volatility from VUCA becomes brittleness. As leaders, we need to be able to build capacity in our people. We need to be able to develop resilience as well. From an uncertainty perspective, we know that the world is uncertain, but we've seen that uncertainty shift to anxiety in our people, in our organizations, in our communities, in the way we work.
Absolutely.
We need to be able to develop empathy. And very importantly, we've seen our shift towards becoming far more mindful of our actions, of our self-awareness, of our social awareness in what we do as well. That complex world that we used to operate in has suddenly become very non-linear. We never know when things are going to change. What we think is one thing automatically changes from day to day. And we've seen those changes happening. We've seen the concept of working environments changing as well. We've gone from being very traditional in our working environments to moving to remote work. Now legislation is being moved where we are seeing 4-day work weeks coming into play. We are seeing changes inside of European countries. We are seeing studies being done. We are seeing companies not moving people back into the workplace as well. All of those linking into leadership strategies and making sure that our people are able to deal with the challenges that are there. And then that last concept of ambiguity in VUCA actually changes over to incomprehensibility. And that incomprehensibility demands from us as leaders to become far more transparent in what we do. But linking to being mindful, we actually have to start functioning with intuition and becoming far more intuitive towards our surroundings and the people that. So we're looking at these concepts, and in looking at these concepts, we actually see that there are very many disruptors that have happened as well. So as the screen changes over, I'm going to ask you to pop into the chat and share with us what are some of the biggest disruptors in your spaces, in your environments. You can see there are 7 identified ones, and it all links into that evolution. So with the evolution of people management, we've seen that in the 1840s, that whole concept of 8-hour workdays and 8 hours of sleep and 8 hours of relaxation, that great man theory has developed over the last 200 years and moved very closely towards transformation theories of the 1970s. We see Maslow's in effect in our environments. We see McClellan's being applied, Hertzberg being applied. We're also seeing other transformational and incentive theories coming about. All of them link into being able to move our people forward, and what used to be for motivating our people is now starting to change into meeting those disruptive changes that we have as well. So is there any of these unprecedented change and opportunity disruptors that are on the screen that you can identify with? Okay. What is in your space?
In our space, Mario, I mean, we are working in honestly a multi-generational organization. I mean, you know it. We've surrounded ourselves with so many millennials that is just taking our business from where they are to where it should be. But that's part of our vision and our mission. So I think in terms for us, in terms of that being a disruptor, you know, we've also given an opportunity to interns in our space to grow and see this is something, an industry that they would like. And it takes time to ensure that they bloom. I mean, I'm later going to share the analogy of our MD where she speaks about what is the environment that we place people in to bloom. But for us, that's definitely been a disruptor in terms of how we have come to learn to work with 5 generations. And then what the advantages of that is that we're going to talk about maybe a little bit later. So for me, definitely, when I look at that, it's probably my top one as a disruptor for us in our space.
What's also interesting, sorry, Mario, is that I'm seeing Sharon Rubin, so not you, Sharon. She's mentioning the hybrid work model being a huge disruptor as well. Yeah, not just in terms of our physical space, but also in the way we lead, because now we have to consider we have in-office staff with us, and we also have people that are sitting remotely that we need to give equal attention to, if not more, just to make sure that they are included, which I know Sharon is going to talk about a little bit later on. But you know, in terms of our leadership strategies, we want to make sure that nobody feels left out. And I do agree with Sharon, that hybrid model has certainly brought about some disruption, but also opportunities.
And
Opportunities to just do things differently.
But if you link to our last session on emotional intelligence, when we spoke about have leaders been prepared for that model, I don't think that we have. So I trust from then we've learned a little bit more in terms of how it is that we lead those type of work models where we still need to create a sense of belonging. You referred to Maslow's. One of the Maslow's hierarchy is creating a sense of belonging. So how are we leading with impact to ensure that we are creating inclusive leadership when it comes to that? So Mario, I'm not going to take up all your time. You're welcome to continue.
Okay, so I'm just having a look at the chat as well, and there's a lot of work from home coming through, contingent work, tsunami of data. We're living in a data age, we're living in an age of information, and we are so exposed to continuous explosion of data that it does have a big effect in how we actually filter and what we do. And we see how things are changing, where us as individuals are attaining more rights in social environments with protection of privacy and those privacy laws promulgating from Europe into America, into our country as well. We're also seeing the way that the world is changing. We don't necessarily have access to Google and information freely, especially if we're from a Chinese environment. There's changeover happening inside of Australia as well. All of those have an effect on how we work and what we do as well. So all of these disruptors sit inside, and for us particularly, diversity is a big one. And that explosion in contingent work is also something that's come to the fore. We're sitting with a workforce that suddenly is not only doing one job. And it takes a lot of mindset change and a lot of developmental change to do that. So we know about that concept of emotional intelligence. We explored it last year, and people management links very strongly to Goldman's theory from 1995, where it says that we need to be recognizing that we have to have emotional intelligence and that people management is influenced by it as well. In 2016, Burson, who does research and advisory services for Deloitte, they actually came up with these 7 disruptors. And in these 7 disruptors, it links very strongly to the fact that there's this concept of change on the one side, and with those changes, it creates opportunity. If we look at that move to contingent work, suddenly people are moving from being office bound and moving from that office environment into working from home. And working from home has now suddenly allowed people to do 2 jobs because we're saving time traveling.
Yeah.
So it's creating flexibility, which wasn't there before either as well. So that makes a big change in how we do things as well. With that change in opportunity actually drives that change in people as well. So there are many organizations that are inside of our own economic space that are actually not sending people back to work. Or they're working at a reduced capacity. And it's echoing all the way through. With all of that, we're seeing that people are actually going through the process of change. So we're moving from this very traditional workforce, we're going into staff on demand models. People are suddenly dealing with mobility. They're able to do far more. They're suddenly able to go and be more agile. And that is driving the contingent work. I think one of the biggest and nicest things for me as previously being involved in entrepreneurship, seeing people following their passion. There have been so much changes in having to do things and how we work, and there's been so much flexibility. And with people moving into their home spaces, people have had the opportunity to reevaluate what is important. And I think that's very strongly links to multi-generational teams and lifelong reinvention as well.
I actually see interestingly, Ayanda is mentioning there that, working from home, there are certain disruptors like bad time management, inability to multitask and so on, which is definitely very, very true. And I suppose, for the organizations that have pulled people back to the office, they've considered those aspects other than the fact that, it just makes business sense in terms of the nature of work. But in that as well, calling people back to work for those that have managed to manage time and to put routines in place. This going back to work is another disruptor.
Yes.
Because now you have to
Absolutely.
again.
Other than having to decide, what am I going to wear every day?
Sorry, I'm guilty as charged.
Good. So, but we see that because of those disruptors as well, that lifelong reinvention is a big thing when it comes to how we do things as well. We've got a there's an advert that went around last year around the first person that's been born or that will live to 200 has already been born. Yesterday I was listening to the radio as well, and they're talking about medically, there's been so much advancement that we can already live to the age of 150. And I'm sorry, there's no way that I want to be doing that. So, and it challenges what is traditional and what is known. If we look at some of the legislative changes that are coming about now as well, they're wanting to reduce the age of what is considered to be an older person.
Yes.
That's going to affect how we retire and when we retire.
Please and thank you.
So if those changes come about and we have to go into retirement at 60, what actually happens in terms of leadership? What kind of strategies do we use? How do we build our people towards being able to work as well? There's some awesome comments coming through. Work from home being very suitable to productivity and working from home rather than an office, but it's around mindset and changing the way you think. That working from home, that remote work, us having to reinvent ourselves continuously and a lot more so, has changed the nature of how we work as well. So before we used to have jobs that would last us 25 years at a stretch. Now we see that things are changing.
Yeah.
We've got a half-life of 2 years, 2 to 3 years. We're lucky if our employees are hanging around with us for up to 6 years at that.
Absolutely.
And it comes into how we actually manage. We need to start managing to change, and we need to start managing to retain those individuals as well.
Yeah.
But we have to also understand that there's an unleashed workforce.
Yes, agree.
We are now sitting in a situation where we've never before had people working 2 to 3 jobs at a time.
Yeah.
Economically, we are now sitting in that space where it has to happen.
Yeah.
So it changes how we engage as well. And those are our realities coming through.
Johnny made a note here, and she's saying that it's about leadership style changing towards trust-based leadership. And it is really about trust. It is about building that relationship where you know that people are going to do what they're meant to do.
Yeah.
And I think, Roshni, you're going to touch on that later. But there's some really nice comments coming through in the chat box that we can certainly, I hope that at the end that we can maybe go and look at it just to reinforce.
Thorough look.
Yeah.
Right. So as I wrap up this section and we move over towards Roshni, it's around us understanding that our future realities are there. We are seeing disruptive changes happening. Are we ready for it? Are we able to actually move our mindset towards effective people management? And Roshni is going to actually look at what are some of the leadership strategies that we can put into place to be able to manage how we engage our people as well.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mario. Quick video as we switch over.
Sorry, we got a bit of a gremlin script in. So the gremlins have crept in, and what was working is no longer working. I think it's a very important video to see a very different perspective, and from a millennial perspective, in terms of why it is important to have employees as assets.
So shall I just play it again, just to continue and see if it's
So maybe we can play it at the end.
Yes. Right. As Mario said, huge apologies to everyone. Yeah, we really wanted you to actually hear this little snippet because in this video, we do ask people who do they think are important assets to the business. And what's really great is that they actually understand and acknowledge and believe that they are our assets, that they understand their worth, that they know that they actually have value to add. And that is what we want to hear, that they understand they are our assets. So thank you very much, Mario, for sharing your insights with us around, especially massive transformative purpose. Because people really don't buy into transformation. No matter how many times we can talk about it, they don't buy into it if they don't understand the why. If they don't understand the purpose around what it is that we do or how it impacts them. They really do want to understand, how does this impact me? How does this feature in my world? And when we are in leadership, we really have to take cognizance of who has been placed in our care, who are we custodians of, what do they need from us as individuals first and then as teams. And I know, Mario, you actually mentioned that when we're looking at massive transformation, transformative purpose, we do have to start with the person, then to teams, and then to the organization. And that is the order in which we absolutely have to think about moving, towards. And so we really have to lead people with impact, which is the focus of this segment. The loaded question, though, is how do I lead with impact? How do I do it? What is it that I'm practically doing in my space that impacts and influences people? And so I really want to encourage people to please, as you have been doing up until now, pop your ideas into the chat box. Let us know, what are you doing in your space? If we just look at the word itself, impact, and we break it down real quick, it is about what are the important actions that influence our people to move into the direction that the organization actually wants them to move into. We are reminded we want them to be efficient, we want them to work effectively, and we also want to inspire them to give freely, as opposed to always wanting and taking. So do you guys agree with me when I say that impact is all about the doing? Yeah. Please pop your thoughts into the chat box. Thumbs up if you agree. Because we do all understand the theory, but our people that are looking to us, they are observing our actions and our reactions to challenges, not just the challenges that exist in the workspace, but also the challenges that exist in their personal life. Right, I'm seeing there are some thumbs up coming through there. Thank you very much. Simone, Theodore, need to build a trusting relationship. Yes. Absolutely, that's really where we are heading. Because let's look at that servant leadership model that you see on your screen. It places leaders in the forefront of activities. Yeah. Not at the bottom and not at the top as the leader and everybody kind of services the leader, but the leader sending out a message to say, I am here to support you. Everything else will fall into place if we get this right. So it is about genuinely wanting to help others, putting their needs first, helping them to develop and to grow. Ultimately, the customer needs, it will be satisfied if we just have a little bit of patience and work at this serving the people first model. Yes, Simone, leading by example, supporting and enablement. I'm seeing Jean-Marie popping there as well. Creating a sense of belonging. Absolutely. People want to know I am valued. Do you see me? Do you hear me as a person? Yeah. Jason Albanese, CEO of Centric Digital, he actually says that nearly 50% of millennials believe leadership is the empowerment of others. And think about who are the millennials? I know Sharon is going to talk a lot about, generational influences a bit later on. So I don't want to steal her thunder. But if we think about who are the millennials, what do we think about them? There are people who think differently. They want different things from leadership. Right? And these influences, these aspects, we really cannot ignore.
Sorry, Roshni. I think there's this very nice comment that just come through by Ryan. I think generationally, the young employee looks to those who lead through influence and the older employees possibly more about lead by example.
Yes.
And I think that is very strongly linked to servant leadership and the way we move forward as individuals inside of our workspaces.
And it is about, being mindful that we do have these different generations, and each one of them have something to add. And so what are some of the challenges, when it comes to empowering our teams? What have you guys experienced in your spaces as, we understand empowerment, we understand that we need to grow people, we want to give them that freedom or that empowerment, but there are some things that really always block us. What are some of those challenges? So please pop them into the chat box so that we can see what you experience in your workspace. Julianne, you're saying, yes, baby boomer, and I agree, leadership is all about empowering others, absolutely. Enabling teams to be self-directed, yes, Ruth, to make decisions. And of course, we do look at things like, when we look at especially agility and agile teams, we ask ourselves the question, am I leading an agile team? And if I can answer the question to, when I'm not there, my team can continue and still perform at a high level, I am possibly leading an agile team. Yeah?
Self-managed.
Being self-managed, absolutely. So if we just look at some of the comments that's come through and also adding a little bit, I know that some of the challenges are, we have unrealistic deadlines. We don't have time to spend to nurture and coach someone. We have administrative overload. Ask us about that. We have undefined, clearly or not clearly defined goals. Not everybody always understands this big picture. They have a lack of vision. Where do I fit into this big picture? Yes, we're sharing a strategy. Where am I? What's my role? How do I add value? I know I have tasks to do, but how does that impact and support? Are we communicating that enough?
So Laura just posted in the chat as well. I think it's an important concept to understand and put on the table as well. What about the willingness and the openness of people to actually be empowered?
Yeah.
So it's not all about us as leaders doing everything. It is a two-way game as well.
Absolutely, definitely a two-way game, and that is one of the challenges as well. Is that when we do have, we have our strategies, we have our plans, we have, the willingness as leaders to support it, to empower, but we kind of hitting a roadblock. The question though that we want to ask us is, why is that roadblock there? Why is that unwillingness there?
I think Ryan's got an answer for you there. He says that I think leadership should actually come with an expiry date. I like that idea. But it's about changing, lifelong reinvention.
Some leaders are meant to maintain, some leaders are meant to start. Yeah. So if you are a maintainer, then acknowledge that and give someone else the reins and say, you know what, if there's new things to start, then I'm out.
And it's about building your legacy earlier.
That too.
I think it is really about empowering and delegating for others just to grow quicker. So I'm absolutely with you, Ryan. I'm ready for that retirement. I'm not worried.
So I do want to kind of just get back to, when we're saying why are we hitting those roadblocks? Yes, often it is, a mindset and an attitude maybe from someone, the employee, our team member, and often as well, when we delve a little bit deeper, we then get to the fact that it is always a trust issue.
Yeah.
Am I willing to put myself out there?
Yeah.
Do I trust that when people see my vulnerabilities that they're not going to abuse it? Can I make mistakes and people will be okay with that? Do people believe that the space that they are in is a safe space to actually put themselves out there? Or am I going to be criticized? Am I going to feel exposed? And now you are using that, as often we hear about people, they are not performing, or they tend to have an attitude problem because maybe they've been in the space a long time. And then we do kind of, as I said, delve a little bit deeper and we realize, well, they've got so much to share, but they are too scared because they're not sure how that is going to be perceived or how that's going to be taken on board. And so, another question to the audience. Feel free to engage in the chat box. What behaviors do you think, you display or should leaders demonstrate to show that they are trustworthy?
thing that's coming far very quickly, assigning responsibilities to match individual skills and capability.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then there's another comment there around micromanagement also needs to be thrown out the window, and also looking at the capabilities of each team member and managing those individuals accordingly as well.
Right. And well, again, linking it back to the fact that, yes, we have a team to manage and lead, but we have to look at the individual within the team.
I agree.
Are we actually supporting the individual first?
Yeah.
And then that will kind of culminate in team goals and team objectives, and really delivering on the team targets.
So by showing interest and show it at an individual level.
Yeah.
Because I mean those conversations, and we know that coaching is at the heart of something. It's not a job. If you're placed in an environment where you're leading people, you've got to make time to have conversations because they want us to show interest. And I think as Jean-Marie that mentioned earlier, they want us to listen.
Of course, yeah.
Right? And
Not just hear, listen.
Yeah.
What am I saying? And not just listen for what I'm verbally saying, but what am I not saying?
yeah, agree.
And often we miss what you're not saying. Loads of interesting comments, very valid points coming through in the chat box, and a lot of people agreeing that trust really is key to ensuring that our people, believe that they can actually grow, that they can put themselves out there, and that you are there to serve them. Yeah. So when we are looking at, this graphic, it talks about trust and influence, and it depicts 8 character traits of trustworthiness. So if you've mentioned some of them in the chat box and I've missed it, apologies, but we acknowledge that
quite
you
a
are
few
correct.
coming through.
Okay, good. And if we look at these 8, we are saying, you know what, we believe that all 8 of them are important, but we also acknowledge that sometimes you have to look at your team. Maybe it's not practical, it's not realistic to focus on all 8 of them at the same time, depending on where your team is at. Who are they? Are they tenured? Are they new staff? Are they, high level of expertise? Are they high performers? And then we choose what to focus on and take it, baby steps.
Yeah.
But if it is that for this session, we can just focus on one of these character traits that, demonstrate trust, it would be, for me, commitment. Because the reality is that trust is not something that you can request on a whim. I don't know how you guys feel about that statement. And again, feel free to pop your thoughts in the chat box. Agree to disagree. But I don't even think that trust is something that it's not even a decision that you make in that moment when someone says to you, trust me, I have your back.
Yeah.
Believe me when I say. No, it's unrealistic to expect that from me, because your actions, your important actions that you have committed to over time, that is what is going to earn my trust. And I have to add this, that when you're committed to those actions in pursuit of doing what is right and not necessarily what is easy, that is what earns my trust. I love that, and I have to acknowledge, unfortunately, it's not mine. It comes from Brené Brown, love Brené Brown, but I want to repeat that actually, that it is not about, it's about doing what is right and not necessarily what is easy. So when the challenge is there, do you have my back?
Yes.
Do you support me?
Yeah.
So in Roshni, there's 2 comments that have come through. One from Thea, it says, when you have your team's backs, they know that you're trustworthy.
Yeah.
Backing them even if you're not 100% in agreement with what they did. They need to know that I trust that they can do their jobs, is the one. And then the other one that came from Benny, which also links very strongly, is reducing favoritism within your team.
Yes.
Many leaders tend to coach only their favorites, and that is actually what breaks down the trust.
Oh gosh, absolutely. We can have another discussion around that, probably another hour or so, around coaching and who do you coach?
Yeah.
Do you coach your underperformers only? Or do you ensure that you give everybody attention, even if I'm a high performer? I'm a person who needs something from this business. I'm here for a reason. And managers and leaders need to actually recognize that. What is your purpose? Coming back to that, why are you here? What is it that you want out of your career, this journey with us, from the organization, for yourself, for your family? And we tap into that when we're doing coaching, not just because you're an underperformer. Yeah. And I really have to reiterate this as well, that people today grant their trust based on 2 distinct attributes. One is Are you competent? Are you delivering on what it is that you promised you would do or say?
Integrity.
Integrity. Second one, ethical behavior. Are you doing the right thing? Are you doing it for the betterment of other people? Are you working towards improving our environment, society? Right? Those two attributes, competence and ethical behavior. And then they would pretty much buy into anything that you actually propose.
So there's a comment that's come through. It says your example is contagious. The good or bad, it's your choice. Now, I think as leaders, there's a lot of input around character coming through as well on the chat, and about connection. So are you acting with integrity? Are you showing the character that you want them to emulate?
Yeah, and that's the key word, Mario. Are you showing it?
Yeah.
Not just telling me. Are you actually showing it? I can see it. I can feel it. It's in the doing. That's right. And so if I must ask you the question, so where does building trust start? I'm hoping that everybody will say in the comments, it starts with you.
Confidentiality is the first one that comes.
Yes,
thank you, Sandile.
absolutely, Sandile. But building trust starts with you. You need to pitch up as the leader. You need to do what it is that you expect and want and ask of your employees and your teams. It cannot just be, I need, I want, we want. It's about, I'm showing you that this is how it's done. And I think, Mario, you alluded to that, Sharon, you might have as well, that we emulate what we see.
Yes.
And so what kind of leader do you want to see that is going to be leading your children when they are in the workplace? Yeah. So trust is absolutely the foundation of impact. Yeah. And I'm hoping that as I can see through all of the comments that, one or two kind of grabs your attention and that when you leave us today, that you can attach an action to it, in terms of this is what I want to do practically back in my space to show that I am trustworthy. And then we expect, we can expect and ask people to actually stand up. So stand up for us. So if we quickly look at these 8 character traits, it's about being clear, show compassion. I know there was some comments around compassion in the chat box earlier on. Know where to find what's needed, get involved. Do all of that with resilience and agility, not just once, over and over again. It's about doing important actions over time. So my time is very quickly running out. I jumped to agility and creativity because my teammates are telling me I'm talking too much. But if I can just leave this with you real quick, if we do want to assess where we are at with agility, ask yourself these couple of questions. Does the team regularly produce value for stakeholders? Does the team validate their work to the best of their ability without fear of making mistakes? Is my team self-organized? We mentioned that earlier. And does the team strive to improve their processes? Constantly thinking about innovative ways, things that we can do. We expect change, but we want to pitch up with creative strategies in order to pivot left or right as needed. And then this is just a sneak peek, guys, because we know we went through this very, very quickly. But when you are engaging with our course content, we do delve deeper into how do we build agile teams. It's all about the how. And so please, stay after for the 20 minutes that Jade mentioned earlier on, so that if you do have any questions around how you can access some of the content, we'll be happy to engage with you. And then one last thing is to just, in summary, if we want to really strengthen our ability to influence others, the Center for Creative Leadership says these are the 4 keys. Understand your structure, right? Know who's who. Promote your team. No one else is going to do it for you guys. This is you backing up your team, showing that they do valuable work. Build and maintain trust. That's been the theme for up until now. And then the last one, it's not an easy thing to do. So leverage your networks, rope people in, ask questions, find ways and means, but there are people that can support you in terms of just making sure that you have the best interest of your team at the heart of things. And so that's my segment. I'm going to hand over to Sharon. Apologies that we rushed that a little bit in the end.
Thank you so much, Roshni. They say surround yourself with people who can do things better than you do. So I'm so grateful to have Roshni and Mario on today because all I have to do is to summarize. So yeah, I think just they've done it, they've said it all. And I think if you just look at the excitement in the chat box, it's because we're talking about the most important part of the business. It's our people, they are the assets. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've put here Mario linked to this when he spoke. It says when people have a purpose, they are motivated. When we go out to work every day, we want to know that we will be achieving something, that we will be adding to our success, the success of our department, and ultimately the success of the organization. So Roshni's last the four influences just speaks to itself. And I mean, and she mentioned earlier that please do delve deeper into things that we are talking about here because we are just really touching the iceberg. And so for my section is over where I only have 15 minutes and I want to do an activity at the end. Please, I'm going to try not to rush. I want to say that we need to unlock the potential in our multi-generational teams. And we've said it all. We've had a very big impact in the last 18 to 24 months. We've had exponentially the pressure on our leaders has been huge. And it absolutely accelerated the way we had to do things and getting used to remote working. And I mean, Kaz, I think it was Sandra that said earlier, she loves still the working from home, but now when most people are back to work, I think the one thing that we do not like is the many cars on the road we now have to travel to the office. Okay, so it shifted work-life balance and changed our perception of leadership and the roles we expected to play in the organization. And in my opinion, it honestly separated the dynamic and the resilience. So yeah, the leaders who can truly lead, leaders that can survive. I think that's where we are when it comes to leading people in this era where we are placed or we are having to face factors that we don't have a control over. So it is all about our people. It is about adapting, evolving, MTPs. It is about creating environment where people have an opportunity to influence, inspire, and just encourage. And so it's about talent acquisition and gig economies. And that's all things that we've mentioned already and that we're aware of. And so earlier we mentioned a little bit just about when I say that I'm going to share the analogy of our Andy. She's online tonight. You all probably know. I'm not going to mention her name. She'll mention it herself later. She has this lovely analogy, and I mentioned her the other day. I'm going to use it because I think it's so true. It's about and it's about what is the environment that we place people in? What is the environment that we place a flower in when it needs to bloom? Mm-hmm. Does the environment allow for that person to bloom? Are we nurturing the flower? Does it get enough sun and water, or does it even need the sun and the water? What are we doing as people to ensure that that flower is going to bloom? And for me, it's so correct about what we need to do for our people, the correct environment for them to bloom in. Are we as leaders making an impact to allow them an opportunity to bloom? Are we guiding? Are we inspiring? Are we praising? Are we living the 4 A's that we so easily train, appreciate, acknowledge, affirm? Are we empowering? Are we showing up? And are we showing interest? Are we unlocking their potential? And so this afternoon we do want to link to what are the traits of inclusive leadership? Mario and Roshni, I mean, you know I'm going to ask you. So we think about what are the traits of inclusive leadership? And please, the audience is welcome to share for us in the group chat. How do we create a culture? And somebody mentioned culture, about the culture of the business. How do we create the culture of inclusive leadership and inclusive decision making? Sharon and I have two things in common. We love, it seems, our first names, but we also love creating and talking about creating a sense of belonging for people. What is it that we need to do? Let's hear in the chat box, please. What is it that we need to do to ensure that we create a culture where people are feeling that they are included in things? And Roshni, you're welcome to change to the next slide. I mean,
so I think one of our big challenges as well as leaders, we find that we are moving forward continuously. And if you look at the impact of what COVID has done to us as businesses, it's important that we are able to actually identify and be adaptable.
Yes.
We need to be able to move with times. We need to be flexible. We actually have to be able to manage those changes. Traditionally, we are not geared towards managing change. We're geared towards managing people we're getting managing tasks, we're not getting towards that change.
Yeah.
And it was shared earlier on that changes now are only constant in
Yes.
what is happening as well. So with that continuous change, the importance of collaboration and collaborative management is also a big need and a must-have for us as leaders in moving up people forward as well.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned it and not I, because that was going to be my one. But absolutely, and I see that in the comments, there are loads of people who actually agree with you that it is about asking other people for their opinions. That is really how you indicate to people that I understand and I know that you have ideas.
Yes.
Share it with me. It might not be feasible at the time,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean I'm not going to ask you.
Yeah.
So let's hear. We could park it maybe, but we collaborate.
We can park it for next month for your session.
Please park it for my session.
Yes, there's a lot happening in the chat, but just I think for me, what also comes out when it comes, and it's something that we need to focus on as inclusive leaders is possibly the importance of fairness and respect. And somebody mentioned in the chat earlier in terms of when we're having those coaching conversations to be showing interest in everybody and not just your favorites. And that still happens in the workplace. We hear it all the time. You mentioned collaboration, emotional and cultural intelligence, curiosity. I think those are all traits for us that we need to focus on as leaders, as inclusive leaders, as creating a sense of belonging. And Roshni mentioned now about giving people the opportunity to speak and listening to them when you spoke now. I think our role as leaders is to allow people to know that they have abilities and to have faith in us.
Something that links very nicely to, sorry Rosh, to what Ayanda's just put into the chat as well. It's important that we make people feel involved and not to decline or disregard their opinions when it comes to decision making. That we have to change how we make decisions. We have to change who we include in making those decisions as well.
Yes.
And that in itself shows that there is value to those individuals.
Absolutely.
And I think that's an important one, especially with the multi-generational impact as well, is being able to understand that even the person walking in off the street has actually got great value that we don't necessarily recognize, but it links to how we can work together and collaborate to actually improve and grow both individuals.
Absolutely agree, Maria. And then if we just link then that what you've just said to our next slide, and maybe looking at the 5 generations that we do find ourselves working in now. I'd love to see what are the generations that we're having online tonight. So I hope we can run a quick poll. We without a doubt are working in an environment when inevitably we are going to find ourselves working with those 5 generations. Possibly your last generation, Generation Z, we're not going to be often seeing in certain environments. However, they soon going to be part of our millennial pool. Okay, so it comes with a lot of challenges. I think we are just different, but I do think there's a place for each one of them. So I can see the poll running in terms of who is online tonight. And just if I link to what is some of the value they add, I think in our silent generation, they should be retired. They are on retirement in my opinion, but they are really hardworking and they are loyal. And I think they sit with the expertise where they can just add value to us. As an organization, I don't think any of those are here online tonight. I trust not.
No, we've got a couple in the 55 to 73 bracket.
Because I do think within our silent and our boomer
There's
generation.
a silent boomer online.
In our silent boomer generation, that's Juliana I saw earlier saying, I believe that's where our best practices sit. That's where our practical examples sit. That's where we've seen things happen, and that's where we need to influence our 48% of our workforce, which is made up our millennials currently. That's where we need to pass on those ideas because we've actually been part of the happening in the past. So boomer generation, guys, they are our strong work ethic. Juliana, that's you. Self-assured, independent, competitive, resourceful, they're very disciplined. I do believe, though, that we're sitting with a culture of millennials, 48%, and probably a very large percentage of that. And research has shown that we have a culture of a Generation X, and that's me.
I think right now online, Sharon, we're sitting with It's actually matched. Millennials have just bypassed Gen X.
There we go. There we go. That's why they're online tonight, because that's where our workforce is. They direct, they want feedback, they don't want to be praised. You must give them feedback how to grow. They want the work-life balance. Amazing how they want similar things, our Generation X and our millennials. They know a little bit about technology, not me that much, but yes, they do. Collaboration is important for them. We cannot neglect the need of our Generation X in our workplace. Like, that's a huge mistake that employees are going to make. I believe that they are our current leaders who's going to pass on that legacy to the millennials, who's going to pass it on to our Gen Z. That's just my opinion. Our millennials, tech savvy. They grew up with technology. I mean, it's amazing when the research has shown that they're quite family centric. They love commitment, they commit, team orientated, they crave attention. So if we look at the importance of those behaviors within our cultures at work, then I think that we're on the right track. Sadly, in terms of our talent pool, research has shown that 95% of our millennials, they don't stay, they leave. And I'm very proud to say at Omni, Mari, if you go to the next slide, at Omni, we have a pool of millennials who have stayed. And I think part of our vision was to, when we focused right before the pandemic even hit, we knew that we had to ensure that we'd be ready for IR. And so we surrounded ourselves with a group of people that knew more than us when it came to how does that look, and for us, how it would look and feel, but not necessarily the expertise sat here, not the how. Okay, we knew what we wanted, we didn't know how to necessarily do it. So I think within the Omni team, that was our vision, and we've achieved it. They've stayed. We're grateful that they have, and yeah, if they're online tonight, they're welcome to send us a heart, because we will continue to learn from them. And then I want to just add this: we learn from each other, and I think we mentioned it earlier. Okay, we live in a world where we have to learn, we have to mentor each other. I think we mentor downwards, and they're gonna mentor us upwards. So yeah, at Omni, we are proud to be surrounded by them, and I trust that there's going to be many pros and cons for us to focus on, but at least the cons, but more the pros. So yeah, I think it drives motivation to have a workforce with 5 generations. It builds a healthy pipeline, in my opinion, and it promotes the sharing of best practices with different perspectives. So we've got 4 more minutes. They're rushing me. They're showing me the time all the time. And so they've asked me just in closing to get to that activity that I wanted. That's probably going to take longer than the 4 minutes. And we wanted to just say that we've touched the tip of the iceberg when it comes to talking about people. Roshni next month is going to talk about collaboration. And so we are so looking forward to you joining us on the last Wednesday of every month, just to engage. I love the engagement here. We don't have to do much talking. We just need to facilitate the chat, because that's how much value the audience adds to these type of sessions. And I trust that we've learned from that. So I think what is important for me is to, Rosh, I know we're running a Mentimeter now, and we can pop it up, is just to say, what are we going to do, leaders? What are we going to do, current leaders and future leaders, to ensure that we build an environment where people are going to bloom? What are we doing to keep our millennials there? Why are they leaving? We're investing time in them. We want the return of investment. We want the return on value. What is it that we're going to do to ensure that we keep them there? So if the Mentimeter's on, please pop. What is it that you're going to do? What are you going to leave and do tomorrow when you're back in the workplace to ensure that we are going to create that type of environment? So please feel free to add to our Mentimeter. And yeah, and just to say, what is it that you can do? How are we going to? How is this going to become an action of doing? As Roshni was saying, what is it that we take away from this afternoon? What people have shared in the chat, and what people have shared, with just our discussion.
So if you are on your laptop or computer, it's just another tab that you open. It's a normal web page, menti.com. And if you are asked for a code, you're welcome to just pop in 1220 8370, and then it should give you an opportunity to just add your website.
Thank you, Roshni. And there's some comments coming. People on the ground see what leaders don't. Absolutely. Leaders should tap into that wisdom. Leaders that listen to their staff found valuable solution from their teams. Absolutely. It's that mentor up and mentor down. I love that. Trust. Lead with authenticity. Book our first team break session.
That's an awesome one.
And that's a lovely practical one. Thank you for that one. Because we are kind of looking to see, it's all in the how. That's what we've been really emphasizing in our session. What can you do when you go back to the workplace to really cement all of that has been shared.
Beautiful. I like that. Going to take stock of the 5 generations and how we foster an inclusive culture. That's such a nice question to ask, because I think our team, our organization is so small, you can actually see we are supported by a great team that made us look good today. I mean, you saw Michael running earlier, but it's in the bigger organizations, it's a lot difficult to do that, but that's such a good thing to do, just to see in terms of what is it that we need to do to just to allow their experience to teach us. I go to them if I have a technical problem. I'm not technically savvy.
But they also help us to reinvent ourselves. And
True.
that's important too.
So understanding is coming up, I see, to ensure transparency when setting goals and drive values. Brilliant, absolutely.
Purposeful action, I love that.
I love that.
So
There's
you
one,
are thinking
you know,
about what it is that you're doing, yeah.
So in the chat, I understand they will definitely be bringing a different consciousness to share with fellow colleagues. I've kind of learned a lot from this. We're glad we could add value to your afternoon.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Nice.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You can continue to add the, as said earlier, we are going to share the slides. It felt a little bit rushed now. I can promise you there was such a lot more that I had to share on my slides, but Mario and Roshni took all my time, but I'm happy for them to do that. We're looking forward to you connecting us on the last Wednesday of each month. I think this month, or for April, it will be on a Tuesday, because I think the public holiday falls on a Wednesday. I think the intent of these sessions is to create a community of expert leaders. That's our role. Boomers, Generation X, and silent generation. Our responsibility is to build a legacy. Future fit leaders. The people management is part of the research, as Marius mentioned, of Workforce 2030. How does the workforce of 2030 look? People will always lead people. That's my closing line. I'm not going to talk anymore. We're going to show a little video just in closing, and then we'll be on for another 20 minutes after this, just to chat and engage about our love for people and our passion for people. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.